Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News for Friday Night Livestream. Hope everyone is having a lovely evening. We've got patriots from all over the globe. Please do me a favor. Remember to like and share this broadcast. Help us get it out, break through the algorithm. Want to say hello to my mods. I saw Jojo K. I saw Hog. I know Real Red Pear Girlfriend is out there. I know my mom is out there. I know Wheezy Girl is there. Thank you to everyone for hanging out. Tonight, my friends Deb Pietsch and Scott Bartle are here. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff, least of which not spiritual warfare, transformation solutions, and, of course, Nesara, which I know many people in my audience are anxiously awaiting. All right, everyone, please do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. In the year 2020, it is so important to keep your body healthy. Collagen may be the closest thing we'll ever get to a real fountain of youth. The older you are, the more likely it's caught your attention, and for good reason. Many health experts now agree that consuming collagen is as crucial as it gets to renew and revitalize how you look and feel. After all, collagen is the most abundant protein in your body and is essentially the glue that holds you together. In fact, after age 20, people produce about 12% less collagen in their skin each decade. And for some, it's an even greater decline. This means that by the time you're middle-aged, you could be producing less than half of the collagen you did in your youth. Even worse, various lifestyle factors you may have been exposed to, like poor diet, smoking, pollution, stress, and excess sun exposure, can deplete your collagen levels even faster. In short, this year-by-year escalating loss of collagen is a key reason people look older as they get older, and explains why over time your skin sags and wrinkles, your hair gets thinner, your nails lose their strength, joints become stiff, recovery from activity and exercise slows down, and digestion-related complaints seem to pop up out of nowhere, and in general, our bodies just turn on us. Some of the benefits of using collagen are making your skin healthy and supple and giving you a youthful look, making your hair healthy and younger looking, supporting your joint flexibility, strengthening your nails, teeth, and gums, promoting strong, healthy muscles, tendons, and ligaments, and promoting strong, healthy bones and digestive health. So visit my page at healthwithredpill.com and purchase the only collagen on the market that I trust. Your link is in the description, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Oh, my camera is a little bit off there. What's going on, fam? How's everybody doing tonight? I am definitely excited for this. I needed to give a couple quick thank yous before we get into it with Deb and Scott. Herkimer Fuddwaddle, he says, in one of today's Q drops, it says Trump admin version 2.0 is also the speed of an airplane reaches just before the wheels leave the ground. Okay, pretty cool. Doxo Girl has joined as a member. Debbie Thorpe has joined as a member. Carl Thunderstorm has joined as a member, and also to NS Gaming. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I do appreciate y'all. Let me change this to the live chat, and we can see everybody who's here. All right, without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the show my good friends Deb Pietsch and Scott Bartle. Hello, you guys. How are you? Oh, hold on. Yeah, I need you to unmute it, I guess, Scott. There we go.
How's that?
It works.
Beauty.
Oh,
hello.
Welcome to the show, guys. How are you tonight?
Thank you. Very good. Thanks.
Great.
Excellent.
We're
Excellent.
very happy, excited, and joyful to be here.
All right. Well, I am as well. I know the audience is. Deb, you are a former producer. Scott, also a former producer. At least, you know, you've produced a documentary. So why don't you give the audience an introduction to both of you? Deb, why don't you go first?
Okay. So my background is a combination of 30 plus years of spiritual journey and awakening. I had a pretty profound experience back in 1987 that was quite multidimensional and really opened me up like a tin can. And I was in the entertainment industry, and at that point, I was completely committed to producing conscious media all through the late 80s into the 90s. And then I ended up, it was very difficult to get anything of consciousness off the ground back then. And I started producing a radio show that was all about cutting edge health and wellness. That was back in like 1999, 2000, 2001. And back in the day, I was working with and producing webinars, or no, it was seminars back then, with people like Bruce Lipton. We launched Tim Farmer radio show, and all sorts of people, Marianne Williamson, et cetera. And then I had another series of things that occurred over from about 2008 to 2010, 11. And I moved over to, I made a major transformation and transition to becoming a cutting edge spiritual teacher.
All right.
Very multidimensional and whatnot. So.
All right. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And Scott, what is your background?
Well, I suppose there might be some people who know me from having created the documentary What the FUQ, frequently unanswered questions, and you can pronounce the FUQ however you choose, however colourful you might like to pronounce it. And that was basically as a result of diving down the rabbit holes. I was importing my 1959 Chev Corvette from the States to Australia, and I started running into all sorts of issues and corporate government, and that led into banking studies and all sorts. So that's probably my most recent experience. Prior to that, I've got a background in project management, planning and scheduling. I spent about 12 years on luxury mega yachts, working for some of the world's rich and famous in the Mediterranean, Caribbean, and that sort of thing. So a few stories to tell from that experience and time on the ocean. And since going down those rabbit holes and doing the documentary, What the FUQ, I met my sweetie Deb, and she opened my eyes up to, and my heart up to, a whole new world, because it was more than just documentation, which was the fight that I was engaged in. I literally learned about the spiritual warfare and began the journey to get very familiar with that kind of warfare. And really, the transformations that I've gone through is quite phenomenal. And I'm probably a really good example of that kind of transformation that we'll get into a little bit later on, but I'm sure there's probably an intro to the...
He's like my poster child.
Banking world. And that
sort of thing. You're an experiment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know, there is one question. Your experience on the mega yachts. I mean, I would assume that you were working with the mega rich. I mean, did your exposure to that world begin at any point during that time? I mean, did you notice anything, or did you start to pay attention in a different way because you realized the type of people that you had to work with?
To an extent. It really only came at the very end with regard to one particular owner that I worked for. And I suppose it's a rather sensitive kind of person. Don't know whether I should say his name.
Might as well.
At the moment. Well, anyway, let's just say relates to a red shield.
Okay. From the banking industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had some very negative experiences during that time, and literally felt it's like my heart was going to jump out of my chest. It was like very, very dark. And at the time I didn't really understand it. I thought it was just stress. But looking back on it, there's a lot more to it. And that's the thing. There's a lot of the things that we go through this world experiencing, we only see the physical. And when you experience something that's a little bit weird, you try and rationalize it and come up with an explanation of it. And the toolkit that we've been given through our education and upbringing really doesn't include much about what has been going on in the non-physical, or as we're hearing it called more recently, the invisible enemy.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, how did you guys come to gain knowledge about Nosara, and what exactly is Nosara? Because this is something I hear people talking about a lot. Many people in the audience, have requested that I do a show on it, and I didn't really know where to begin, because all I knew was that many people spoke about it, but they didn't seem to have any firsthand information.
Okay, so I guess I basically started to get involved with what I refer to as the GCR, Global Currency Reset, 9.5 years ago. And that's what took me down some very off-colored, shall we say, rabbit holes. And then through my telepathic communication and the different things that I have available to me multidimensionally as assets, I was able to, and then a ton of research back then to really start to understand what was going on. The interesting thing is I was actually told about aspects of Nosara prior to ever researching it. So the information that I started to ascertain by doing some research was then basically confirmed by the things I was getting, that I was receiving telepathically and, my communications. So for me, it's been a 9.5 year journey. And then Scott and I, when we got together in late 2013, basically you've been on board with it since we met, and had a fast track of all sorts of, with our relationship. So we're involved at a different level than I don't know how quickly you want to get into that. So,
well, I mean, you've said telepathic twice, so I want to know, when you say telepathically, I mean, what exactly do you mean?
Okay, so so I have basically been opened up like a tin can in a very unique way to receive, not just receive, to have ongoing real-time communication with God and with my guides. I refer to them as guides, beings of light that are here to support humanity's evolution. And back in about 2009, 2010, I started receiving very detailed communications about how far off track we were. And that led to just all sorts. I've got, like thousands and thousands of hours of communications. And basically, this whole Nosara thing, we were supposed to, should I get into the whole 9/11 thing and really what was supposed to?
Sure, of course, yeah.
So, all right. So basically, what I had been told before I found out about Nosara is that September 11, 2001, we were supposed to start many things were supposed to occur, but there were monies that were available to through decades of different things having to do with farmers, lawsuits, and whatnot. And then they created these prosperity programs, and spiritually, we were supposed to have all sorts of abundance released to humanity back then, that we would start a 12-year evolution of our expansion and growth, and basically leading up to 2012. So many people have heard that 2012, there's supposed to be, you know, a big transformation and transition. Well, basically, that was hijacked. It was hijacked through these nefarious activities of the people that many now know about, the satanic rituals and the different ceremonies that are going on behind the scenes. And basically what I was told is that starting with JFK's murder, then leading up to 9/11, which that morning, Alan Greenspan was supposed to make an announcement for the release of these funds. And we all know what happened. So basically, between the JFK's murder and the 9/11, we have been shoehorned into a timeline that's basically an alternate timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And what Trump is doing, and what he's leading the way with the military, and now with all the Q people and the Q movement, is swinging that pendulum back to a timeline where we are basically leveling, just getting to a level playing field, so that we can start to engage with our evolution in a way that isn't, well, we have a lot to talk about in regards to spiritual warfare, because it all ties in together. So what else would you want to add to that? I mean, there's a lot of detail to get into, but
I want to grab that soundbite about the level playing field,
right?
Because the physical example of where we're at is we have not been at a level playing field for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
You only have to look at the court system at the moment and see the media out there lying their asses off to the public, and seemingly at this stage not being held accountable. And that also ties into what was going on with the Nosara. You had these farmers that were losing their farms through these dodgy mortgages, and even though they had all the evidence in the world, taking it to the court and not getting anywhere.
Right.
And then they'd
the double standards, the hidden agendas.
Yeah, and even when they did win something, then they didn't get their properties back, and you just didn't get anywhere.
Right.
And this is the research that I was looking at with regard to the banking, and I first stumbled across it from the perspective of the corporate government. And I was seeing little copyright symbols on the bottom of web pages that were government related. And I was thinking to myself, why are these guys copyrighting the Commonwealth of Australia? Copyright to me was the domain of the corporate world. And if you went along and said, okay, I'm going to impersonate and be an imposter of the United States government, for example, that'd be a criminal realm. There'd be an act or a statute that you'd be breaching, just as there was in Australia. It's the Crimes Act. And there's specific language in there that talks about impersonating or using or passing off a mark, like a logo or a seal. And that's a criminal realm. So to me, when I started seeing these little copyright symbols, I was going, hang on, no, there's something wrong. And that's what started going down the rabbit holes. And so ultimately I learned that there was two governments in Australia, two parliaments, and seemingly the same thing going on in the US. There's two constitutions, seemingly the Constitution of the United States, where the United States is an entity or a corporation. And then you've got the Constitution for the United States, being the organic United States.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's interesting about today is here we are on May 1st, 2020. And we haven't been in the public for years. And the main reason is because, at least for the last couple of years, we have been working confidentially behind the scenes with this GCR. And I got the guidance a couple of years ago to get involved at another level that has taken me, thankfully with the support of Scott, has taken me to Europe several times and to Miami, and we're working with some really amazing clients and at a whole nother level now. And what's interesting just about today is that we're in the final transition. I've been in this for 9.5 years. And I believe by next week, we're going to have much of this starting to be revealed in the public. So the timing was coming on your show and being here and basically launching everything that we've been holding back for several years now. It's very divinely orchestrated. So we're really grateful to you, Red Pill.
Well, that's not a problem. I mean, this, like I said, many people want to know about this.
Yeah.
Before we move into that, I just want to be clear. When you say spirit guides, I mean, are you talking about angels? And I know I've already seen it in the chat. Many people want to know, how do you know that it's not something that's evil, that's trying to trick you, that's satanic?
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where I excel. So
Buckle up.
Yeah. Okay. So what started to occur? The communications I started having like in 2004, 5, 6, because I was avid with my conscious awakening. I mean, at a level, it was. There were two parallel paths. Because the communication I received in 1987 laid out why I had fallen into the entertainment industry. When I had moved to LA 6 months prior, year prior, to be a cop. Actually, country bumpkin, come to LA, thought I was going to be a cop in the big city. And I fell into the entertainment industry. I fell into Hollywood. And this communication that came through, it was in a personal development seminar. And it basically was laid out why I had incarnated and why the doors to the entertainment industry had opened, and that I was here to create conscious media that was for awakening, and very similar to what I was experiencing in this personal development seminar. So fast forward to how do I know? So I started being told by my guides in 2004 that my different conversations I was having here in physical was being tracked. That there were dark energies. I was being told things like the air has ears, kind of thing, right? Because back then, I mean, I had been planning for what we're about to be launching here for decades. So as my telepathic communication, I spent a lot of time in isolation. I left Hollywood. I left having an agency. I lived basically in isolation out of my motorhome and in Ashland, Oregon, and Mount Shasta, off and on for several years, as I was being taught by my guides all sorts of different things, and mostly about this nefarious energy. And I was taught how to, and I now can say I am masterful at detecting the energies and at clearing them and teaching people how to do it. I've taught Scott. I've taught hundreds of clients and students over the last 10 years. And this is something we have to actually engage with at this point, because we are in a spiritual war. And a lot of the people that are involved in and engage with this multidimensional communication and activities actually do have imposters speaking to them. But I said to my guides early on, well, I'm going to say back in 2011, I said, look, if you want me to come out of the closet, because here I'm still a producer, right? Well known in Hollywood, et cetera, in the realms that I was working in. And I said, if you want me to come out of the closet basically and be communicator, I need absolute confirmation and evidence in this dimension. I will not be lumped into the woo-woo people that are, out there doing this. And I totally, with no disrespect. And so I have really honed in my communications over the years. And once people are around, the confirmations I don't know, you can say.
Well, to add to that, and speaking from experience, initially, I think for a lot of people, they experience a communication of some sort, whether it comes through their dream experiences or in their waking day during daylight hours, the first thing that you often think is, oh wow, what the hell was that? Oh my god, this is awesome. I'm experiencing stuff, I'm communicating. And the instant reaction is, oh great, I'll listen to this entity being, and you believe it.
Yeah.
Because there's that level of trust. You are also amazed at what you've just experienced. And so the other aspect that comes into this, and this is where the spiritual warfare comes in, and the teachings with regard to clearing your field, in terms of like your field being an electromagnetic field. And I often visualize it as being like a bubble around you, almost like one of those balloon things that you roll around in the park and run around inside. But if all of us have got this bubble around us, then when you are consensually and engaging with other people by agreement, you have a merging of these like bubbles. And the degree to which you agree on something is the degree to which your little sphere overlaps. Now, what we've been going through is we've been having the abrogation of our free will, where people don't respect our personal space or our field, and they're pushing in on a opponent, or they're actually breaking into it. Now, one of the ways that you can have people break into your field is when you have either emotional or mental disassociation. And one of those disassociations can come like when you're like, oh, amazed, like something like that. Bang, straight in is the opportunity for energetic communication to dive in a nefarious kind of way.
Can I jump in? Okay. So going back to the question, red pill, and it's a really valid question. What I did years ago, a decade ago, is I set up a protocol, and I said I will only communicate with specific beings that I knew the vibration, and through this protocol, I won't let anyone else into my field unless there's an invitation from the beings that I communicate with. Okay. Now, the other thing is when I spent that time in isolation, I went through very deep altered state alchemical transformations. Now, I'm also an activator. So that I was taught. So I've been taught all of this by my guides and by God. And because I didn't take classes, I didn't read books about any of this. And I have thousands of confirmations in this dimension of the validity of the communication that I receive. And I traverse 24/7.
And on that, I've been a fly on the wall to some of these transformations and the evidence, and it really is quite amazing.
Now, just one more question with regard to this. I mean, you've said that you have, you're getting communications from God. Do you guys consider yourself to be Christians, or did you have, were you raised as Christians?
No.
No? Okay.
Here's my thing is that I've been told about this as well. My personal belief is that a lot of the religions have been man-made, and that a lot of them are to keep us either controlled or just empowered. My awareness is that we are aspects of God, and that when we engage that vibration and when we engage ourselves as I am that I am, that is what we're meant to be on a spiritual path. Now, the challenge with, here's a lot of the people that have been awakened, especially in the last, let's say 3 to 5 years, they haven't necessarily had the spiritual teachings, like about the chakras and about your energy field and about vibrations and, things like that. So that is one of the things where it's important that we bridge that with the patriots and the people that have been red pilled, because what we're dealing with on the planet right now is with this spiritual warfare. We are dealing with non-physical energies that have completely abrogated. And I want people to really hear this. They have completely abrogated your free will, our free will. They have, as Scott calls this about the energy field, they have pushed into our reality. Most people are being affected by this infiltration in their daily lives. So this is a big part of the foundation of what we talk about, teach about, and then provide solutions through experiential tools for people to start to shift their lives. This reality that we're existing in right now is so far off kilter. And when what's important for people to really start to have a relationship with is, are you existing in this reality, or are you thriving as a being of light? Because the majority of this reality has been taken down a road that is based in lack, based in fear and control. And what's happening with this transition and with the virus and the event that's occurred here on the planet with the, well, I'm going to say here, especially here in the States, because we're starting to see the difference between certain, let's say, the governors who are wanting to control their state in lockdown, and the others that want their state and their people to actually expand and thrive. So there's a lot here for us to explore. And what's important for people to understand is that for years, what I've been referring to this is it's a designed assault against humanity's awakening. And what most people on the planet think they're playing a game of baseball. But what actually has been occurring through these satanic ritual and ceremonies and the things that they are conjured these energies and entities. And we're actually existing in a game of football, but we're being tackled by non-physical energies. We are here to be co-creators with whatever source it is of light, hopefully, that you choose. And that has actually been really shut down because so much of the planet is permeated by these dark force energies.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let me just take a moment to say a couple of thank yous to the audience. Floricio said, "Rise up, New Yorkers. Cuomo and his mini lapdog de Blasio are destroying our beautiful state and city. We need to protest. Unity is powerful. Where we go one, we go all." Red Pills Warhawk said, "Much love to you, my brother. Stay strong, full armor, bro." Rook Castle says, "Here's for the D's Nuts Be Dragon Killed Fund." It's an inside joke. Red Pills Warhawk, real men wear kilts. Veronica St. Clair, thank you, Red Pill. CC Membrez says, "You guys are awesome. Love this live. Keep up the good work." Michelle G, pardon me, hello from Texas. And Alan Howarth, thank you for that as well. Okay. So, I mean, I can already see, there's a lot of people that are very freaked out by, the idea of what you guys are doing and what you believe to be communicating with. So I wanted to set the foundation, so that we understood exactly what you were talking about. Now, with regard to Nosara, now you mentioned the global GCR, is that what you said? Global currency reset? Yeah. Now, your experience with Nosara is in like the physical realm of the world, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So when you say the GCR, is that an organization or is that just the idea of a global currency reset?
An actual global currency reset.
Okay. But is that being done through a process, and is that Nosara?
I believe it's all tied in. Mm-hmm. It's very complicated.
Okay.
In one sense, and yet reasonably simple in another.
So for the people that have done any of your research, you probably know that there's 180 to 200 or so countries involved. This has been going on for decades. The people that are engaging with all this nefarious activity are the ones that do not want this to occur. They don't want us to go back to a gold-backed currency. They don't want Nosara to come into effect, because they lose complete and utter control at that point. So the enslavement matrix will begin to be dissolved. Now, the thing with what's interesting about the timing right now is, there's some pictures that have gone around recently in the last 24 hours with the flag that's missing the trim.
Yes.
And then also the UN flags are not there.
Yes.
In order for the GCR and the gold-backed currency to come into fruition, we have to go back to the Republic. And that is, I do believe, what is happening right now. And the level that we're involved in, and we'll be able to talk about this a lot more, I think, in about 2 weeks. But the level, that this is happening right now, and that the part of this shutdown has been an opportunity for President Trump, the military, and the beings of light that are working both physically and non-physically to bring down the central banks and the things that have to occur for the Federal Reserve, which has now been merged into the US Treasury. And that's the level that we're working at. And I can tell you, if we had nefarious activity going on, we would not be divinely orchestrated to be where we are right now. We are working at an extremely high level.
Now, can you tell us something more about what it is that you're working with? I mean, is this a federal organization? Is it a consortium of private individuals?
Before you go down that path, can I just give a bit of background on...
Sure,
go ahead.
Of course.
Because, okay, so a lot of people just think Nosara is free money. And one of the things that I've found that a lot of folk don't really understand is the concept of money. And largely it's because we've got two distinct monetary systems. Now, a lot of people will say it's the fiat currency versus the asset-backed currency. And yet they don't really understand what that really means. And I've been describing it in a slightly different way. Is to start out with the origin of money, where you started out where money was a representation of value, and the value might have been nutrition or shelter. And for example, someone would go out and dig potatoes or catch a fish, and that was energy and effort expended that created the value that provided that value of nutrition or satisfied hunger. Likewise, someone would go out and build a house and build some shelter, and that satisfied the human value of shelter. And so a lot of people think today's money is valuable, and yet unless you sort of put the dollar bill over your head, you're not going to shelter from much rain. The money itself isn't valuable. It's used as a representation of value that you can exchange with others who create the value that you can exchange with. And so one of the key aspects of that kind of monetary system is that the value has to actually exist. And today's monetary system or credit system, that value doesn't exist. And when I started looking into the publications of the Federal Reserve and that sort of thing, Bank of England, IMF, the way money was created was at the time of lending, which meant that it didn't exist beforehand and therefore couldn't really be loaned. And this is what was coming up with the Nesara claims, is they were finding out all of these fraudulent aspects of these loans where no money was actually loaned. It got created at the point of lending. Be like me going along to Red Pill and saying, can I borrow your Ferrari? And you're like, well, I don't have a Ferrari.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I wish I did.
Don't worry about it. I'll lend it to you. And that's what the banks do, is they go, we don't have it, but because you promised to repay us, that promise to repay is treated as valuable. But there's no asset that exists yet. There's no value, there's no energy and effort that has been expended to back that currency. And the other aspect about that is there is no limit to the amount of promises that you can make. You can promise into perpetuity and you can have as much money in the system as you can make promises with. Now, the way I look at it is we are due for either an inevitable crash, in which case you really learn what the value of your current currency is, or we do a reconciliation with the existing value that's being created in the world and correlate that to a monetary system, which is
Let me jump in.
Global currency research.
Right. Okay, so let me jump in here. So a little bit of history. There are hundreds of years ago, there were collateral accounts set up. And these are assets that are held off ledger. Now, the 9/11 event was far more than what, meets the eye, what a lot of people have now figured out. It was a combination of a heist. There was gold in the basement of the towers that was taken. And there was all sorts of things also in regards to the towers being used as a satanic ritual as well, having to do with the divine feminine, the divine masculine. Now, what this GCR, I'm going to actually try to put it in simple terms. One, it's a global event. So there are hundreds of countries, 200 countries involved. They're political, the governments are involved. There's a changing of the guard in order for this to occur, which is why the nefarious bad actors do not want this to occur. And what we're looking at is there are assets that have been held off ledger, that have been stowed and stored throughout the planet. Everything from, I can't get into the actual details, but there are bunkers and bunkers and bunkers of assets that have been held off ledger. And they've been held there for the time when, back actually 9/11, 2001, when these off-ledger collateral accounts were supposed to be brought on for humanitarian projects. That was what was going to begin the expansion of our evolution, hearts opening, and a whole evolution of abundance flowing for humanity. When we are not in survival, when we are not in the mode of how am I going to pay for my mortgage or my rent or my food or whatnot, at the next month, or if it's all handled, let's just say that there's an actual natural flow of the resources, we are in a completely different vibration of engaging with our spiritual awakening and evolution. That's what was supposed to happen, right? So just getting back to the pragmatic aspect of this is that President Trump is leading the way on the planet because we have to have a high level of peace on the planet before this could occur. Now, if you guys remember back a couple months ago before the pandemic event started, he did there was a press conference in regards to Afghanistan and that the peace treaty had been signed, right? Mm-hmm. There's many things that have led up to this money being supposed to be being released. And there's things that have gotten in the way of that release as well. We're now, I believe, in the final. We're over those hurdles. Does that make sense about the off ledger? There's assets that have been held off ledger.
I wanted to ask about that. Yes, I mean, okay. You said they were created, but created by whom and held where exactly? And if it's not on books, I mean, like, how is it being stored and how can you verify it?
Well, just before you answer that, the two systems that you've got there, you've got real assets and you've got fictitious promises of assets. Mm-hmm. It's like oil and water, they don't mix. So when you talk about off-ledger assets, it's all the stuff that can't actually be recorded in the current system because the current system works with promises and debt versus actual representation assets. Of value and assets,
right?
So
and resources.
So just to be clear, so the holdings in these accounts are actual like physical wealth, like gold or like jewels or something like that, and not fiat currency.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Just another example. Assets. you hear quite a lot of talk about infrastructure being rebuilt in the US at the moment. There was a time, in a very limited time in our history, it happened in Australia in some cases, and the US, where money was printed through the Treasury, spent onto infrastructure, and the people went out there, built the infrastructure, and that was the energy and effort that they expended on building that infrastructure was the value that left an asset that represents now that energy and effort, and therefore the value. And that infrastructure is owned by the people. Now, contrast that to the way that the present monetary system works, where they go along to the Federal Reserve and say, oh, we'd like to borrow some money that they don't actually have. Federal Reserve says, yep, here you go, here's some money, you need to promise to pay it back to us. That gets spent into the economy. The people then go and earn that money and then pay it back as taxes. And then the government goes and pays it back to the Federal Reserve. The infrastructure ends up not being owned by the people. It ends up being owned by the private bank or the financiers who create this money out of thin air, or thick air, as I like to call it, because it's a little bit more involved than just tappity tap, tap, tap. But yeah, that's the essence of it.
Here's one of the other key things I think that we should mention is that you can't find this information on the internet. This is, the reason we haven't been in the public for the last couple of years is because my involvement went very deep into this. And there's confidentiality there's things that just can't be spoken about. Once we start to actually have the funds being released, we'll be able to talk more about it. But it has been held at a very high level of integrity and non-disclosure of information, because over the years, when there's certain, I don't even think I should get into that. But if people can just be a little bit patient, because we really don't want to jeopardize our relationships and the status that we're at, and the level that we're working at, to disclose too much more than we've actually already disclosed. What I will say is that in the very, very near future, we're going to be able to fund humanitarian projects. We'll be, launching quite a few of our own, a lot, hiring a lot of people. And it's something that we'll be able to talk much more about. But at this point, we have to be, and the crazy thing is, like I said, Red Pill, we actually thought we were going to be able to come on here today and talk more openly based on what's happened even just in the last 72 hours. So we're dancing the fine line right now.
Okay. All right. Need to do a couple of quick thank yous to the audience. Let's see. David, thank you for joining as a member. I'm sorry, I got to skip back a little bit. White Hat Granny says, Red Pill, remember infiltration. Be careful. Love you, sir. Good night. I'm out. Live too long to listen to this. Have a great weekend with Real Red Pill Girlfriend. Well, thank you for coming, White Hat Granny. Glenn says, not all of us here are freaking out, Red Pill. Not all of your listeners are Christians, flat earthers, or JFK Jr. believers. Keep bringing the interesting guests. David, thank you for joining as a member. Guy Jin Bear says, hang in there, Red Pill. This will be over soon. You'll be okay tomorrow. We'll be there for you when your spiritual hangover wears off. I recommend 2 eggs and prayer. Justin860, Para Anand, thank you for that. Gaffer Anand says, checking in but have to bug out to chair AA Zoom meetings at the top of the hour. We'll catch the replay tonight. In it together, Bill W., thank you for that. Justin Paranan, thank you again. Ask about Saint-Germain. I want to ask about that because I did get some information about Saint-Germain in my research on Nosara. Linda Chastain, thank you for that. Red Pill 68, thank you for this. Happy birthday. Excuse me. Hey, brother, I made it to a live broadcast for once. Where we go one, we go all. MAGA 2020. And Katie Forsyth, appreciate you, Red Pill 78. Okay, so obviously we've got a mixture of people in the audience who have differing opinions on it, and I obviously one of the reasons I like to do these shows is because are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay,
sorry.
okay. So as a disinterested third party, I can kind of, talk to you and talk about different sides of different issues, and we can, take a look at it and just have a conversation. But who is Saint-Germain, and how does Saint-Germain relate to the idea of Nosara?
Okay, I can dive into that. But first, before we dive into that, here's what I would like to actually presence, is that for the people that are freaked out about the information that we're sharing, I started talking about infiltration openly back in November of 2010. This is when, and I would say to my guides, why am I going through the experiences that I'm going through? Why do I need to know about this? And the response was, because there will come a time where you will be able to be a bridge for the people that are not open to this right now, right? So I have been very ahead of my time in the way that I have received information, confirmed it in this dimension, in the physical, and through thousands of private sessions with the confirmations of the work that I do that way, have the confidence that I have. And the question that I have for people is the timing of this conversation. With all of the Q research and all of the information that's come out over the last couple of years, right? People have become very familiar with the evil that is being conducted in the world, correct? Mm-hmm. We've heard about the human trafficking. We've seen the horrific evidence of the things that are being done behind the scenes. My question, and I'm posing this to people to really take this on board. If all of that is being done, I'm just asking you to be open to the possibility that you are in a space of maybe you didn't know. And let me just ask this question this way. Did you know about that information 5 years ago? Have you gone down the rabbit holes of your awakening, and you have had layers, peeling back the onion layers to get to the point of like, oh my gosh, okay, this is what's going on in the deceptiveness of our governments, of the behind the closed doors, Epstein Island, all the different things that we've learned about, right? The question I have is, what if you are right now in a you don't know what you don't know opportunity situation? Are you open to hearing what might be the truth that could actually change your life in a profound way? And I want to go back to one other thing. And I definitely will answer your question regarding Saint-Germain, because Saint-Germain started communicating with me back in 2007, and I had never even heard of him. So 2015, Scott and I had already been doing shows and webinars and things back then. We got the guidance. I got the guidance in January of 2015 for us to do a counter protocol of light event for the Super Bowl, for the halftime show. So we had Sean Stone and of BuzzFeed and several other people, and we had an amazing panel. And
Buzzsaw.
Was it?
BuzzFeed is a leftist organization. Totally.
You're right. Buzzsaw.
Different.
Sean Stone. And
good catch.
Yes, very good catch. Thank you. So we had a panel on for the entire halftime, for the entire Super Bowl 2015. And that's when I had already been told by my guides back in 2012 to start researching the halftime shows. So for that entire show, we did a live broadcast for the entire Super Bowl. And during the halftime show, we did prayer and activation and transmuting energy, because I'm not sure if people even realize that the halftime shows are the largest public satanic ritual on the planet. Okay, so great. So then are you aware that they are doing energy harvesting? That is an abrogation of your free will. And as you engage with that entertainment, and you're like, oh, wow, awesome. You have just opened up your gateways for those energies to come into your field. And most of you don't even know that. And it is happening on a regular basis. Your friends, the more awake you become, the more you are targeted. Your friends and your family close to you I know this sounds crazy, but your friends and your family close to you can actually become vessels for this energy to come into your daily experience and daily life.
All right. And so who is Saint-Germain, though? Who is Saint-Germain?
Okay. All right. So Saint-Germain is he was physically on the planet, and he engaged with alchemy. In fact, he was the one that he worked with the elites to set up these collateral accounts. He was teaching alchemy of gems and gold and all sorts of things. The intention was for these elites to actually bring all this wealth to humanity through these collateral accounts and the Saint-Germain funds. And it's been completely infiltrated. And that is a big reason why we haven't seen these funds released yet. Saint-Germain has become a well-known ascended master that still comes into physical form periodically. I'm just going to say through open channels. He is one of the ascended masters that is here to support humanity's evolution. And they're like Jesus, Melchizedek, Archangel Michael, Yogananda, Buddha. Many of these beings who have walked on this planet physically are now the non-physical beings that I actually communicate with. And they're not here to be, they're not engaging with us to be revered as deity that is a pedestal or a hierarchy. They're here for us to understand that we are all aspects of God, and that we are actually meant to be ascended masters, mastery in this dimension as we evolve. So, does that make sense?
I mean, I can understand what you're saying, but was Saint-Germain like a historical individual, or okay, and when?
Yes.
When was he alive?
I'd have to actually look it up, quite honestly.
Okay.
I want to say 1871. I did a whole, back in 2012 when I was doing my Wake Up Shift is Happening, I did a whole show on him and his history. And quite honestly, I'm so sorry, I can't remember the dates.
Okay. All right. Well, we're almost at the point where we're going to open up the phones, and the main question that I see popping up in the chat is, how does what you are saying differ from like the New Age stuff that I've seen many people in the audience talking about, as being evil, as not being able to be reconciled with Christianity or belief in God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit?
Well, I'll have a crack at that. I'm going to go slightly off tangent a little bit. With those folk following Q, we've been introduced to a lot of subjects which are pretty nasty sort of stuff. We're learning about children being tortured. We're learning about cannibalism. And all of this sort of stuff is taking place throughout various rituals and ceremonies and that sort of stuff. They're not doing it just to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there conjuring energies and entities. Now, a recent example is the video that surfaced of Chuck Schumer coming into Congress and pointing to and indicating to an entity to get out of his seat.
Mm-hmm.
And no one could see anything there. And the woman behind him is sitting there looking perplexed, like, who's he talking to? There are these energies and entities that have been conjured into existence. They're not here for our benefit. But the question is, what happens if, let's just say, we end up arresting some of these folks with the hundreds and thousands of sealed indictments that are out there? What happens if some of those people actually end up getting executed as a result of treason? What happens to those conjured energies and entities and the demonic beings that have been brought into existence? Are they indicted? Hardly. Are they executed?
Right.
You're not going to get rid of them conventionally or just by ignoring it. And this is what the spiritual warfare is all about.
Mm-hmm.
It is facing that reality, because it is reality. We're seeing the evidence of it, albeit the way that we see it is not like, oh, look, there's one. We're seeing the evidence of this stuff going out there. But if we don't open our eyes to it and start learning about the spiritual warfare, which
right.
is what we're seeing with some of the Q material. How many times has he dropped that Bible quote about the armor of God?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's no accident. And this is the material that I think we really need to pay attention to.
Yes.
So we can go, oh yeah, everything's all love and light. So this is what the New Age movement has been for many times. They're like, I don't want to look at the darkness.
That's right.
I want to go, everything's rainbows and unicorns. I'm not going to focus on that darkness because I'll create it. And yet, if they put the same amount of attention onto winning the lotto, they haven't been able to create that. So their logic is a little bit flawed. But what we teach is that we need to be able to look at these subjects and control and choose ourselves what we create.
That's right.
If we can't look at...
That's mastery.
If we can't talk about some of these subjects of darkness without fear and without creating it, because that means we've lost our choice as to what we want to create.
Yeah.
But we also need to be able to aware of what we're up against. And burying our heads in the sands and hiding from it is not going to help.
Okay, I mean, I can definitely understand what you're saying there.
Can I?
Yeah.
Are you having a technical issue?
I was trying to put the phone number and the meeting ID on the screen, and for some reason, it's making it cover the entire screen instead of just the little section. I'm just trying to fix it. But yes, you can go ahead and continue. I think I may have gotten it.
Let me also express some things as well, because, you know, we're this subject that we're talking about, which is just the foundation of what we talk about, what we teach, and what we activate, because it's so important, and that it's a subject that most people actually don't want to delve into. Mm-hmm. It's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not, you know, it isn't the love and light. Now, I was one of those love and lighters. I absolutely was like, no, I'm all about the light. I'm all about the light, you know, and 2 decades ago, my guys were like, no, you've actually got to look at this and deal with it. Because here's the other thing. So when I really started to open up my telepathic communication, what I started doing was asking, and this is part of what I teach is, you know, most people, you make your decisions, you base it on personality, you base it on logic, or you base it on, let's call, of the flesh, right? Decisions and choices. How I actually started to surrender to my experience of God is I would ask, what's in my highest divine good? And I joke about this, but I mean, I would ask as I opened up my telepathic communication, I would ask, is it my highest good to go to the store now or go to the store in 4 hours? And I use that as just as a kind of a silly example. When you are willing to engage your spiritual journey at a whole nother level, and your relationship with God and your higher self, in a way that you are willing to engage your life with what is in your highest divine good, everything begins to shift. and things fall away that are no longer serving you in your highest good, and things come into your life. You will have initiations. You will have all sorts of things occur. This is what we teach. We teach how and activate to engage not only your higher self, but for you to engage your heart's desires, for you to engage your what is in your highest divine good and highest divine truth. How many of you have a relationship with free will? How many of you have a relationship with what are your heart's desires? How many of you have a relationship with God right now? Because we are this is a spiritual war. This is light versus dark. And there's a separating of timelines that are going to occur. And it's going to be very much based on your relationship with God, with Source, whatever that is to you, and your actual proactive engagement. And this is where people who, especially those of you that are waking up through this whole amazing information and movement, because there was supposed to be this whole evolution over, several decades, like the 60s, right? We started the whole explosion of consciousness and, love and whatnot, but it was very much shut down by a nefarious government and nefarious governments around the world. So we are just trying that what is happening for humanity and support that is coming through is for people to come into a level playing field where we can actually be in alignment with Source, where we can engage our heart's desires, where we can activate law of attraction, and that we can engage with the alchemical transformation that is supposed to actually come from the sun. And it's very much depleted because of the chemtrails and the different things that are occurring. And so the DNA and the evolution, we are meant to go through, and I've been saying this is an analogy I used for 15 years. We are meant to be that caterpillar sitting on the leaf, spinning a cocoon, going into your awakening journey and transformation, and you literally come out as a butterfly. I went from being an award-winning producer in Hollywood to a cutting-edge spiritual teacher. That doesn't happen by reading books. It happens because I called in my higher self. I worked through my filters, my ego, the different things that I was being taught to actually transmute energy about, right? And what I was able to do is bring through a whole different aspect of my higher vibrational being self, right? This is what we're all meant to be doing right now, is engaging with those aspects where our God self actually comes through and reveals through us as us. And it's a crazy and amazing transformation, but you've got to proactively engage. You've got to be in prayer. You've got to clear your filters. You've got to recognize what filters are, or your shadows, sorry. You've got to recognize what shadows are, because what's playing out on the planet right now, and I refer to this as the shadow shitstorm, what's playing out on the planet right now are the shadows, the fears, the rage, the deception, all of those things that people wouldn't and don't want to know about themselves, their low self-esteem, their anger, their rage, their fear. That's all playing out on in the macrocosm. That's another huge thing for people to look at. What is showing up in your life? Are you joyfully co-creating and expanding with all the resources of your heart's desires? Or are you in survival? Are you in fear of the future? Are you, ask, what's the evidence that's showing up in your life?
Okay, let me do a couple of quick thank yous to the audience. Need to go back to Kelly Cummings. Thank you. She says, love your red pill. Katie Fortson, appreciate you, red pill. Dana Finkler says, I ordered some flags today. I got one for you. Jirafang Archangel Michael has spoken of these things. San Diego Gold Star Mom, Q sure has opened doors for us. Thank you for the show. Wheezy Girl says, if they believe in Satan, then why are they not Christian? Is their God the creator of all things? Just my question. Frank says, question for your guests. Is Trump and our military going to seize all the assets from the 13 Illuminati bloodlines for crimes against humanity? Diane Rain 1 says, Carrie Cassidy and Paladin discussed this yesterday regarding the humanitarian aid release. Please ask Deb if she knows or has heard of Carrie and or Paladin White Hats report. And Aubrey Alexander, thank you for that. Jan Armbruster was joined as a member as well. And then cue the music. How about healing paralysis? Okay, so we've already got 12 people on the phone. We've got 50 minutes left, so I want to get to the phone as quickly as possible. But I want to go back to Wheezy Girl's question, and then we can take the rest of those questions after that, just one at a time. Just wants to know if your God is the creator of all things, and do you believe in Satan?
I was going to say, I think the evidence is pretty obvious that there's a Satan that's running amok. Mm-hmm. And yes, there is a God that has created everything. Does that make us Christians? I choose not to go by a label. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are so many other religions out there that have a God. Like Deb says, it's the vibration and aspect of creation, its source. You look at the God energies and the frequencies and vibrations, it's integrity, it's truth, it's love. That's what we're aligned with. What label do you want to put on that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And can
I also just say one thing?
Sure.
Scott just said the word source. So I just would like to have people have a relationship with source, sorceress. So what are you sourcing? Are you sourcing love? Are you sourcing light? Are you sourcing hate? Are you sourcing anger or fear? So there's been so many inversions in this matrix. Our website is Transcend the Matrix, right?
Yes. There
have been so many inversions and so many programs to take people down nefarious, just get them off track. So it's an imperative time right now to get back on track, to see where the programs are, to see what the inversions are. Okay, sorry. Okay. I know you have other people to.
Yeah, no problem. And then do you think Trump is going to seize the assets from the 13 Illuminati bloodlines as part of Nosara? Is that part of it?
It would appear that way. That executive order from, was it 2017, January?
January, yeah.
That one basically spelled out if you are engaging in the proceeds of corruption and trafficking, that sort of thing. And I'd say those bloodline families are front and center. Their fingerprints all over that sort of stuff.
Right.
And I'll add to that, and that is the level that we're working with. We have had to go through very, very strict background checks, and everyone that's involved at the level that we're working at has gone through very strict background checks with 3-letter agencies of this country and Interpol. And they are not letting this money get back into the hands of the dark force people.
Okay. All right. And then she asked, Diane Rain asked about Carrie Cassidy, Paladin of White Hats report. You're familiar with them?
I know Carrie well. I don't know her well. I've been to her house because I haven't talked to her in years. I had her on my show when I was doing Wake Up Shift is Happening back in 2012. I've been to her house and interviewed her there as well. We've talked. So yeah, I definitely know who Carrie is.
Okay.
And honor her. She's been out there, many, many years.
All right. And then Cue the Music asks about healing paralysis. And any possibility of healing paralysis?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
The question is, what is paralysis coming from?
Let's say from a tragic rock climbing accident.
Okay. Well, if you look at it, your body is, I often use the analogy of like a computer system. It stores programs. And so you have a traumatic event and it basically captures the energetic frequency of that, stores it as a traumatic event. You look at today's therapy is lie down on the couch, 10 years worth of therapy, and we'll talk about it and we'll get rid of it, or stuff it sufficiently under the mattress so that we don't see it for a while. What Deb does with some of her clients that have been a fly on the wall is she goes right to the source of it, and it might be something completely innocuous that you would not even think, but it triggers and it activates the storing of that electromagnetic
It transmutes the
program.
origin.
And Deb, with the assistance and permission of the person she's working with, transmutes that at the origin.
Oh, that's another key point. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got our first caller on the line. Looks like Melissa Watts is in the room with us. Melissa, I see you've unmuted. How are you?
Hi, I am awesome. I can't believe I just got through with you on my first attempt.
Well, congratulations. You made it.
Hallelujah. I love that you are talking about this right now. I actually walked away from you for a little bit, I'll be honest, because you weren't talking about it. It's I have been digging into Nosara for about 5 years now. I'm actually former military intelligence. My father's been in the military. He actually just retired 35 years. He's got a gag order right now. He just retired recently. He actually worked at the NSA when 9/11 happened. So I was 17 years old when that happened. I was in high school, and it was a very traumatic event for me. But I remember everything that happened around it, and I've always questioned it. My father, in fact, immediately came right to me that day and said, "Do not believe anything about the Pentagon." He was at the Pentagon the day that it happened. He was part of the investigation.
Wow.
And I've asked him about Nosara, and he gets so mad about it. And I feel like it's something they've done to block him from talking about it.
Yeah.
And he gets, all these people in your chat are so hateful about it. To me, that's Satan suppressing that positive energy towards what we need. This is what we need. And it's been, and this is where people need to connect what Trump is saying in these conferences. He said 1917. The first time I looked up Nesara, that's the first thing I found, was that it was actually started in 1917. And these people have hidden it and lied about it and covered it up and covered it up for years and years. And I don't know how many of them are negative. I don't know how many of them were complicit. I think it's been too many to even put up with it anymore. And I feel like everybody just needs to put the possibility towards it.
Absolutely.
Everybody from this, why not try for 5 seconds just to believe in it? If you believe in Mandela effect, if you believe in God's rule of three, where three or more stand in my name, any aspect you want to use to make your mind feel comfortable with it, you have to try, because it's for all of humanity. This is supposed to be where we go one, where we go all. And this Nosara could heal everyone. And the fact that everybody's been so negative about it and it's been so hidden for so long, I think is why it's happening. I feel like it's happening right now. Anybody needs to go ask their local farmer if they know what Nosara is.
Really? Okay. All right. See, this is something I've wanted to talk about for so long, but like I said, I didn't have anyone until I met Scott and Deb who said that they had any direct knowledge about it. And what I'm wondering is, what does this look like? If Nosara is real and it's implemented, does everyone's debt just get wiped out? Is everyone given an unlimited card? What is the difference between, the idea of Nosara and, say, what the Dems are trying to do with like a universal basic income? What is to keep everyone being productive if everything is provided for them and they don't have to do anything? And if it's not that, then please tell me.
Yeah.
This is where you can throw a whole heap of things in a bucket and stir them all up, and you pull one out and no. So, to start with, you've got two government systems at the moment. And like, you've got this corporation that's sitting over the top of the organic constitution, the original republic. Now, my understanding is that you've got this corporation because the original government started borrowing money from this private cartel and eventually went bankrupt. So your corporation that's layered over the top is just a bankruptcy administrator trying to recover the debt. Now, if you talk about the government, that's a singular. There's two governments. So for starters, you've got to unravel that mess. What I think is going on in the Q environment is that pill is just way too big for most people to swallow.
Right.
And so I can see that what is being done is to unravel this mess whilst maintaining the framework of a singular government as being the legitimate one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're the president and you're sitting there, you're trying to negotiate and weave your way down, hang on, am I on the constitutional side at the moment, or am I in my corporate, have I got my corporate hat on?
It's been insane.
What a path to try and travel down. Now, when you try and then look at, say, a court system, okay, are we talking about the corporate court system in the maritime jurisdiction, or are we talking about organic constitutional courts, Chapter 3 courts, I think you might call them? Which one are you working with? Which one is legitimate? Can you ignore some of the judgments that have come from the corporate ones? If you do that, does that then open the can of worms on the whole two systems? Like, you can see how it gets really messy.
Mm-hmm.
What it looks like is that President Trump is going down the path of using the existing system as if it's legitimate and wrapping these folk up and catching them in their own lies and backing it up with the enforcement. And this is what's been lacking so many times, and with the Nosara issue, is the enforcement hasn't been there because they've all been co-opted and corrupted.
Right. With hidden agendas and all, double standards.
All right. Well, Melissa, thank you for your call. If you or your father ever want to talk about any other stuff related to this, you can feel free to email me, and I would absolutely love to pick your brain.
All right. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Melissa.
much.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
God bless. Where we go one, we go all.
Absolutely.
Yes.
God bless you as well. All right. So bringing in our next caller. Wow, we are not going to get to everybody tonight, guys. I'm so sorry. 20 people waiting on the line, and we've got 40 minutes left. Diana is going to be coming in just a moment. I need to swap out my chats here because I just had a reset on my computer browser. All right.
Okay, Red Pill, while you're doing that, can I let everybody know that we're relaunching our online community?
Sure.
Okay, so we had an online community a conscious online community back in 2015 and 16. And we actually ended up taking that down because we moved back from Australia to the States and bought our spiritual retreat center. And we, here on the show, we actually are launching the Great Awakening Global Community. So I just wanted to let people know about that, and that we're very excited because it is an absolutely imperative time for us to unify both online and offline, to organize and to mobilize. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Okay.
And would definitely like to talk about it before we end again.
Okay, no problem. We've got Diana on the line now. Diana, are you there? We just need you to unmute. Lower left-hand corner it should be.
Yeah, got it.
There we go.
Got it.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you guys?
Excellent, excellent.
Hi.
What's your question for Deb and Scott?
No, I'm right here.
Hi, you're on Red Pill 78.
Yeah, we're a marriage of Q followers and like Nesara and everything that goes on in between.
Okay.
No, I don't really have a question. I just really like to contribute with with the conversation.
Please.
To tell the people that I know that it's hard for some people to get off from some topics such as religion, our inclinations, but I just want to invite people to open their minds to a range of possibilities that that are good for our humanity, for the whole world. This is not just for a particular nation, it's for the whole world. And not just for the whole world, because this is a cosmic movement. Is just to think of everything as energy. If we just come down to that very simple line, everything is energy. You name it the way you like it, but everything comes down to energy. So I'm energy. Everything that we are surrounded with is energy. Our space, the space that we see empty, is full of energy of different types. We don't see it, we don't feel it, but it's there. There are many different misconceptions about space, about darkness, about everything that we've been misled by the system that we're trying to, I wouldn't say fight, but the system we're trying to understand, because we had the wrong set of information throughout many, many, many decades. So just be open-minded. It's not that hard. Just be open-minded to a new set of information that could set us free. That's what this is what it's all about. Being set free from the chains of ignorance that has led us to so many, 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 many wrong paths. That's what I like to tell people in the audience, because we deserve this. We deserve this, and our fellow humans everywhere in this world deserve us to just have that open-minded to a new beginning in love. That's all I want to say.
All right. Well, I appreciate your call. Definitely. Thanks for calling.
Thank
Diana.
you.
Thank you all for everything you're doing. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. God bless. All right. Let me see here. Just need to do a couple of quick thank yous. While we're waiting for Denise to come in. Let's see. Troy Blazik says, great show tonight, Red Pill. Outstanding guests. Thank you for all your hard work. God bless. God bless all patriots. Where we go one, we go all. Grandpa Bear says, our heart's desire should always line up with God's will for us. If it doesn't, it's a lie. My heart's desire will most likely be just that, mine. White Hat says, hello, everyone. Much love. Wanted to send you some cash for a great week. True soldier, brother. Thank you very much, White Hat. Thanks for being here. Janet Blank says, do they believe in the Holy Trinity? Cody Scruggs says, absolutely love your channel. Found you about 3 weeks ago, and I'm hooked. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Patricia64 says, I have a question for your guest. Do they believe that Jesus is the Son of God and that he died for us and that it is through belief and trust in him that we are saved? American Crystal Clear Education and Security Limited. Thank you for that. Jeffrey Gubala says, Q will be biblical. Jews not charge in 7-year Jubilee. Sammy Q Patriot says, such an amazing topic. I've been waiting for you to explore this. Please do more on this topic. Bless everyone. Leaside 10, love you, Red Pill. If debt forgiveness occurs, it won't be because of Ascended Masters or the deep work these guys are doing. Patty says, you are amazing, I think it says, Patty. Well, thank you very much for that, Patty. Well, and I feel like we've addressed the idea of Christianity in coinciding with your guys' beliefs. But I need to say thank you, Denise, for joining us tonight. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing
Having
well.
a good weekend?
I am having a good weekend, yeah. How about you? What are you up to?
Well, I'm probably going to ruffle a few feathers here. As you know, I'm well-travelled. I'm a forces baby. I'm well into my 60s. I've travelled all over the world, met different cultures, talked with many, many different cultures and people, and I have a mind that hungers after knowledge. So during my travels, I always look into cultures and their beliefs. I will start off by saying, and this is my opinion, religion is the root of all evil. Just about every war or conflict on this planet has a religious base to it. Now, I can't say that I'm Christian and I can't say I'm religious, but I do have faith. And one thing I've learned in my life is that the only way you will learn anything is to open your mind and listen. Absorb information. I've spoken to Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Jews, Sikhs, you name it, and I've spoken to them and I've looked at their beliefs. And all I can say is if you're in your heart, you know the difference between what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's evil. And if you live by what you feel inside, if I do this, is it good or is it bad? You know, and if you see people in trouble, help them. It's difficult, but you have to have an open mind. The only way you can learn anything is by listening. You can dissect out of that what you think is good in it and what you think is bad in it, but don't close your minds to it. Take President Trump. There's a good example. He has his prayer meetings. He doesn't only have Christians coming into his office and pray with them. He has people from all religions come into his office and prays with all of them. He doesn't say, I'm a Christian, therefore I'm only going to have Christians come in and I'm only going to pray Christian prayers. He listens to everybody. He listens to all faith leaders, and he doesn't exclude anybody. And exclusion is what causes risk and what causes strife. You have to be inclusive of everybody, you know?
Excellent points, Denise. Excellent points. You know, and I mean, the thing is, everybody knows that I'm a Christian from watching the show, but I don't ever want people to feel like they don't want to or they can't watch my show because they don't share my beliefs exclusively. And I've also never felt that it was my role in this world to push my beliefs on anybody. Of course, you know, for each of us, as those beliefs are unique to, you know, us, I mean, we all believe that we are correct in our beliefs, you know, I mean, I think that, so there's something to be said for, you know, allowing people who have, you know, different sets of beliefs, as long as our values align, to coincide in a space together. So Denise, that was excellent. I really appreciate you calling tonight.
No problem.
All right. Well, thanks for your call, and
Take care.
I'll talk to you tomorrow, okay?
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Let's see. I need to say whatever S. Hi, Red Pill and Mods. I'm sorry, but the only connections we should have spiritually is with the Almighty. Her butterfly is evil cult symbol. Lynn Owens, definitely the best show ever. Thank you so much. I could listen to y'all for hours. Daniel Turgeon, the tension up here in Canada is building fast. I hope this breaks open soon, as there are many, as we are set free, many Canadians are fighting for us all. Where we go one, we go all. And then there's one more that I can't see. So we're going to go on to Aaron next. And let me see if I can get that to pop up here by doing a little bit of work with this. Okay, I think Aaron is coming in. Aaron is here. Aaron, hello. Longtime friend of the program. What's up, brother? I love the glasses. We're looking more and more alike as my hair grows out. You just need a beard.
I had a beard.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Hello, Deb and Scott. It's a great show so far, and Red Pill, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
I looked into this. I've been looking into this for a long, long time. And what I remember in my early studies of this was that, wasn't it a bill authored or co-authored by Paul Wellstone from Minnesota? And then,
yeah, do you want to answer that?
I don't know the origin.
This was,
but keep going for the moment, Aaron.
Okay, so Paul Wellstone, he either wrote the bill or he co-wrote it. And it was supposed to link back to silver that was that actually JFK had for his silver-backed $5 bills that were released, but he was going to release 10s and 20s and 100s. But that didn't happen because obviously that changed. But Paul Wellstone was he was an out of a left field candidate in Minnesota. I actually lived in Minnesota when he came to office, and he was a teacher. And he ran for office against Rudy Boschwitz, who'd been a senator, and he whipped him. He had really clever commercials, and he's really for the people. And the establishment looked at him like a pipsqueak. He was a pipsqueak.
Yep.
And he eventually died in an airplane crash. And I always thought that he was done in because he was not playing the game. He was for the people. And
Yeah.
so that is what I remember about digging into it many years ago, back before the turn of the century.
Mm-hmm.
Quite possible. I mean, there's just so many coincidences of people who are for humanity, for Mother Earth, who have accidents or commit suicide in very strange ways. And the first thing, like, you look at some of these bills and the history on Nosara, there's the Wikipedia version, which is probably not the best one I'd go to look at for research material. There's a good document that I found. I might send the link to Red Pill that you can put in the description of this video. There's I mean, you look at trying to bring stuff before Congress. Can you imagine turning up to Congress with a bill like that and getting Nancy Pelosi and those guys to vote on it? I mean, what are the chances? And this is the thing, is the kind of money that most people are familiar with and we've grown up with is this debt-based fiat currency, which just comes out of thin air. That is not going to be our solution. The likes of what JFK was looking at with the silver-backed, the asset-backed currencies, it's got to, the value system has got to completely change. And are we in the time, in terms of societal times, that now is a good time to change everyone's paradigm and introduce that topic? Could be. But it's just this whole Ponzi scheme of money backed by promises of, oh yeah, I'll pay you back on Friday next week.
Well, if I could just add something here, and that is in regards to the 9/11 event, the Pentagon was hit that day, and the area of the Pentagon that was targeted, not by a plane but by a missile, was the area of the building where the white hats who were participating for this to be brought out were, that was their office area. So this has very much been, it's been shrouded in a lot of darkness. And if it wasn't for somebody, well, if it wasn't for President Trump, because I don't think that there are very many people on the planet that would be in that position that could hold the field the way that he is in leading this. And if I could, I'd like to just share a quick story, Red Pill, in regards to what was communicated to me about President Trump a week after the election. And Scott and I were actually in a very challenging 6 weeks. We actually weren't involved in, I haven't been involved in politics and voting for 15 years because, one, I knew it was rigged, and two, I didn't want to engage with that duality reality. So we were in a very challenging 6 weeks of buying our property, our spiritual retreat center in Mount Shasta. And we finally, a week after the election, so we weren't following any of the details. And after the election, was tuning in, and my guides came in and said, okay, you've missed a lot. And so the first thing that they said was, Trump has been shoehorned in for humanity. And I opened my eyes, I looked at Scott, and I said, WTF. I would normally say it, but I know you don't have swearing on your show. So
Thank you.
I said, we need to clear the field. And I want to make sure this isn't imposter energy, because I was really surprised. And so what came through in that communication was, we are tired of humanity being annihilated. And so he's been shoehorned in. He is no saint by any means, but he has the balls to do what has to be done. And that's exactly how it was communicated. And if this is, okay, so I just want to also add to this with the community that we're launching, this online community. It is when you come, the first gal, I think it was Elizabeth. When two or more, when three or more are gathered in the same intention, the vibration, this is where we co-create. When we activate a unified field, when we're in a vibrational match of our heart's desires, this is how we create reality. Now, the news is being used, and I want this to fall with everybody listening. NEWS, north, east, west, south. They are using the news, they call in the four corners, and people are used to create a reality through the news that they don't even realize they are participating in creating. This is where we must take our power back and recognize where we have been abrogated, where our free will is being used.
So if and when Nosara is instigated or comes online, what's the first thing that would happen? How would someone recognize that it is an actual event that's taking place?
I think we're going to start with the debt forgiveness.
Okay.
And we're starting already. I mean, you already got talk of some of these grants and loan programs.
Yes. It's already slowly being rolled out.
Student loans, possibly, or you may not have to pay those back.
Yep.
But without just going, oh, great, free money, understand what's at the root of the existing loan system and how that money came into existence.
Right.
Then when you understand that it was basically fabricated out of thin air, no value backed it, the people who loaned it didn't actually have it in the first place, then you have no bad feelings about not paying it back.
I can buy that. Let me just say goodbye to Aaron, and we're going to bring in the next caller. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay, keep going, because it'll take a minute.
Well,
for them
the
to
other
get in
thing
here.
too is because the amount of money that is going to be released on the planet, the abundance, it's going to have to be done in a way that doesn't create mass inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and the other thing as well is that if you think about this too, in regards to right now in the United States, we have, what do we have, like 25 million people unemployed?
30, I think.
Right?
Yeah, I know it's many millions, and I don't know what happened to Katie, but she's still joining, so we'll try to bring
President
Fred
Trump
in.
is very confident that we are going to roll into an economy by the fourth quarter that was better than anything it had been before. So this is all lining up to be better, be able to be.
Fred, go ahead and mute your stream in the background, buddy. Continue.
We'll be able to basically, I don't even know the word I'm looking for.
Oh, the economy that's going to be.
With the economy, people will be able to grasp it. Whereas before, they're hungry. And also think about, this is something else that came in from my guides this morning, is that right now there are billions of people on the planet that are calling in, I need money. They're invoking that in abundance. Now, a lot of it's from fear, but they're creating a unified field of calling that in. It's energy.
Okay.
Do you see?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. All right, Fred, are you there, my friend?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Excellent. Fred, thank you for joining the program. What's your question or comment?
Well, the first thing, I wanted to thank both your guests for having the courage to come on. I know a lot of people, as they say, are haters out there in the world. But what I've understood coming from Nesara, because I don't know if you've heard of Wano Saving, but that's where I first heard of Nosara from. And what he mentioned was that it's not just a jubilee, as they would say in the Bible, or a debt forgiveness, but it's more or less a way for us as humanity to ascend to the next dimension. And I just was wondering, what your outtake would be on that. And
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for asking. So because money has been used to enslave us, the way that we are going to be able to really transcend this enslavement is our relationship with God, but then also not be enslaved by an instrument that is used, that we all need right now to trade our goods and services. When it becomes so abundant that it no longer has a hold, it can no longer be used as a control instrument. When we can move away from the survival that has been very much a part of the designed assault on humanity, when we move into the abundance of what our Creator, God, has intended as our birthright, we will organically move into what you're referring to, ascension, and the chemical transformation, the up-leveling. But we have to get to that level playing field first, because the pendulum has swung way off base.
Mm-hmm. All right, Fred, thank you for your call, buddy. I appreciate you.
Hey, no problem. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks,
Have a
Fred.
good night.
Thank you.
All right, and let's see, waiting for Abra to join the call, and just need to say thank you. Oh, Abra also super chatted. This resonates with everything I've learned over the years. Please ask if they have any details have changed and how it's going to roll out. We will be able to exchange our currencies. Is that something that we're talking about here? This is Abra on the phone right now, so maybe she can ask her question in a little bit better way than what I was able to just get out. Thunder777 says, my Twitter account has lots of good info on God and energy. At 777 Thunderlips will blow you away. I'm going to follow you, Thunder. Thank you. 41020 Patriot, I agree with your guests. I've been feeling Nosara for years. Son of a Green Card says, thanks for all you do, bud. Love you. No homo. Love you too, Son of a Green Card. Charmaine says, need to check out Pastor Dave at hisglory.me regarding reset for everyone in the world. Each will get lots of money in increments, but you, I'm going to have to wait until the next super chat comes up because I can't read the rest of it. But I will check out that website for sure. Abra, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Now, I just read your super chat, but perhaps you'd like to ask the guests directly, so feel free.
Okay, so that was pretty much it. Can you give any details on the nuts and bolts for those of us who've been following this for years and have our Zims and our dinars and our dongs, and we're waiting for the 800 numbers that may or may not be real, and...
Well, that's the key, the may or may not.
Yeah.
We've heard so much disinformation over the years. Some of it, I'm sure, is intentional. Some of it is deliberately nefarious. How it's going to roll out, I don't know. But I think the key that Deb mentioned is that it can't be disruptive to the point where it breaks society.
I think she's asking specifically for the currency holders, which is what we were up until a few years ago. And as of right now, I don't know what they're going to do. We're not working at the 800 number level anymore. We're way, way beyond that. I don't know what they're going to do at this point. So I don't think we actually have a valid answer for you.
So is this, I mean, I've seen different people talking about, many people have contacted me just in the last 2 years and talking about my father back in, Gulf War I, he bought, I don't know how many thousands of dollars worth of Iraqi dinars. And then when he passed away in 2009, I had a shoebox full of dinars and I sold it for $700. Like, it was worth nothing. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. But and then I've also heard stuff about is it Zimbabwe or some other place in Africa? The currency is supposed to be worth, so much. I mean, is that connected to Nosara, or is that a different thing than Nosara?
The best way I describe it is we are in for reconciliation of value with regard to a currency system. And there are these nations that have got massive amounts of assets that have been put into or kept in a third world environment. Perfect example is Zimbabwe. They're sitting on massive amounts of resources in ground. Now, you go to an asset-backed currency where you actually acknowledge the value of that asset. then what does that look like? How does that get rolled out? And who is in the way at the moment of rolling that out?
I think I just got something with regard to this. Okay, so the currency would increase in value because it would be the value of the currency would now be tied to the
resources and
amount
gold.
Of resources within the country. Okay, I mean, yeah, if that happens, I can totally see that happening.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's where you were missing.
Okay. All right, Abra, thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
I have one last question.
Go ahead.
So, is it also tied into the humanitarian projects? Like I have a humanitarian project written up and all that stuff. Okay, so I didn't waste all that time because it's many pages.
No. And that's the other thing with our community and with what we're going to be offering people is an opportunity to submit projects. So that's another thing that we're going to actually be engaging with as well.
That's great. Because I was wondering how we would get notified, to come in. So.
All right. Thank you for your call, Abra. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Night.
All right. Somebody said, maybe I'm being a jerk, but I've heard you talk about this. I've only ever talked about this in terms of the fact that I wanted to get more information about it because, like I said earlier, I've seen other people talk about it. I've heard it hinted at, and then I have seen, really, I mean, nothing in terms of like evidence or to understanding in exactly what it was. It's always been discussed as a concept, but I've never really understood it. QAnon White Wolf is going to be joining us here in just a moment. But we're looking at 10 minutes in the program. I want to try to get as many people on the line before we get to the end of the show. Why don't you guys give everybody another quick bit of information on where they can find you if they want to learn more, if they want to get in touch with you guys?
Do that.
Yep. Okay, so the main website we run is transcendthematrix.com. And as of today, we are opening up the Great Awakening Global Community. There's a link from transcendthematrix.com to it. It is brand new. So once you get in there, don't expect that there's going to be a whole plethora of stuff there. We're wanting to provide a place where people can come, build community, especially in the light of everything that's going on with the censorship on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So hopefully it's a place where we can post stuff like red pill content that would be useful to others to wake them up, cue material, discussion backwards and forwards on that sort of thing. And also we want to go in heavily with what's the energetic component and really dive into the spiritual warfare, which is super important.
All right, so a broad-based, non-censored community to share information. All right.
Non-denominational.
And non-denominational.
You will not be judged on your spiritual choices and beliefs.
Don't think at Jack will be passing the
participating, right?
Good. All right, QAnon White Wolf is on the line. QAnon White Wolf, are you there? QAnon White Wolf, are you there? All right, maybe QAnon White Wolf is not there. I'm going to give him another moment to see if he pops on the line, but otherwise we're going to go with our next caller. We just got another super chat from Mike Q. He says, God equals Jesus equals love equals Holy Spirit. I love you all and pray for you all to be filled with love and light in Jesus' name. And we're waiting on Double Kai to come on the line, unless QAnon White Wolf, you're there.
Hitting the mute button.
QAnon White Wolf, is that you speaking?
We did hear you.
Yeah, QAnon White Wolf, I heard you just a moment ago. Can you say hello, respond to me?
Yep, sure can.
Okay, excellent. You're on the air. What's your question or comment?
I just want to say I love you, dude. You've been doing a good job.
Well, thanks, brother. I appreciate you calling in to let me know that. It means a lot.
We agree.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Everybody in the chat, man, y'all been doing a good job too. Right. My question is, I downloaded a PDF file. If you go to the Nosara PDF in the Google, you should be able to see it. And there's actually just loads of research in that. So you don't even really have to do any of the looking for all the information.
And I'm sorry, where are you downloading it from? Is it an official Nosara website, or is it just somebody else's research website?
It actually says Nosara, the National Economic Stabilization Recovery Act, to amend the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 as amended. An Internal Revenue Code. It was actually going to, I guess, to Congress.
Oh, so this is the actual bill. I've seen the bill, and I guess one of the reasons that I was confused as to the nature of all of this is because I wasn't certain if the information presented in that bill was the same thing that people were speaking about, because it seemed to be broad-based and global. And I've seen other people in the chat say that what that global thing would be Nosara, which is the global economic, as opposed to the national economic, which would be taking place here in America.
And there also seems to be a bit of a shadow version of the same Nosara. I think it's National Economic Security Act. Or
yes.
They substitute stabilization with the word security.
Yep.
And they have different meanings.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So just be careful which one you're looking into.
Okay.
All right. QAnon White Wolf, thanks for your call, brother.
All right. Thank you.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Okay. We've got Double Kai on the line. Kai, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yes.
Hi.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you for having this show tonight. And thank you, Red Pill, for all your shows. And thank you, Deborah and Scott. I especially wanted to ask you what your kind of like elevator pitch version cheat sheet is for fighting off the shadows to get closer to one's higher self. Because thanks to Q, I've gotten closer to, I'll even call in Jesus Christ. I used to kind of repel by the sound of the name because my brother became born again, but ever since the Q movement and finding out how protective that ascended master was, I found it very handy, especially still living in Hollywood. But definitely pick up weird vibes and light white candles or try to pray and things like that, and a lot of it works. But I'm would love your quick cheat sheet version, if you don't mind.
Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a quick cheat sheet. There's a cheat sheet. This is something that is, it takes some time to actually engage with the clearing of your energy field. And that's why we have experiential tools to assist with that. And it also takes going through this alchemical transformation to really move into a space of warrior and a warrior of light. And I've been through some major initiations with things that have shown up, and Scott has too. And basically, it definitely is beyond lighting candles. There is, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, just laughing.
and I appreciate, what that as a one track, because we really haven't been taught about this. If I didn't have the guidance and the communications that I had over a decade ago, I wouldn't be here talking about it. But there are layers and levels to basically up level, and then you get into commands and you are clearing your field and you are an authority of your energy field in a way that most people haven't been taught how to be an authority of their energy field.
Okay.
I was going to say as well, most of the energies and entities that you're working with are working against you are operating from the shadows. They're not coming face to face with you and dealing with you in that way. They're deceptive, they're sneaky, and they're ultimately afraid of our power when we really know how to wield it.
And they've been conjured here to actually to create havoc, to wreak havoc in people's lives.
Okay. And I'm writing this all down. It's interesting when you mentioned shadows. It made me think of the Out of Shadows film that's been seen by 20 to 80 million. Thank goodness. So
there's
I would
how
definitely
many
check out
million
your
people
website.
who are now exposed to this topic.
Yes.
And it's becoming mainstream. It's not
fringe as it used to. It's not nearly as fringe as it was when I started talking about it 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it is one of the most imperative things for people to embrace as a possibility, mm-hmm. and to learn how to move through this. Because what we're seeing right now, we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah.
Once we actually get into what's that? Yeah.
That's why I can feel it coming.
It is. The upheaval that is coming is going to be nothing. If somebody told you that most of the planet was going to be locked down for a month and a half, 6 months ago, you'd be like, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. We're not interested in spreading any fear. We're here to empower and to have, but we don't want, and we're hoping people don't get blindsided. And that's one of the reasons why we're coming back out to finally actually talk about this and to offer the community, to offer the tools, to help and to assist. And the shadow work is very important, your own personal shadow stuff, because what we're about to engage with is a shadow shitstorm. Yeah. When these governors that are locked down, that are locking down their states and the people are uprising, we're going to start to see some even more ugly stuff, right? Yeah. We have to clean out and transmute and embrace our shadows and be in order for the macrocosm to have that experience as well. So it's an inside job. We're all responsible for what we are bringing forward into this reality.
All right. And on that note, Kai,
thank you very much.
Yes, we're at midnight. All right. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. And thank you to Deb and Scott for being here. Let me just run through the last of the super chats. Natalie Ann said, thank you so much. I needed to hear this today. Melissa Watts says, Q led me to Christ and God showed me Nosara. I cried for hours. I felt all the stress of the planet leave my soul. This is love. Matthew 5:5, the meek shall inherit the earth. Where we go one, we go all. At God chose Trump 77. And then Color Fab, unfortunately, I can't read it. Color Fab says, great show, Red Pill. Thanks for these guests. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully, you said next week, maybe we're going to see something happen. Nosara will be here. This is one of those things where, the proof is in the pudding. And I think that nobody would like to see anything more than, suffering ending on Earth and for the United States especially to go to an actual asset-based monetary system and get away from the fiat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Red Pill.
No problem. And thank you to everybody for coming tonight. Love you guys, too. Thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you to all of the mods. And thank you so much to everybody who liked and shared the program. All right, good luck, everyone, and God bless.